Good morning, good afternoon. Happy to speak to you once again. Another recording about global project management experts' views of how AI is impacting project management. Today, I welcome one of my favourite PMO people, which is Tony. Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, Lloyd, thank you for having me today. It's been great. It's Wednesday in the middle of the week. So, as you said, my name is Dr. Tony Prensa. That's what I'm known in social media. So you will find me in LinkedIn and other social media as Dr. Tony Prensa. So am I? So I'm from the Caribbean. So I was born in Dominican Republic, but I developed my professional career mainly in Puerto Rico. So my background is in technologies, in information system technology. So I had the opportunity to start my career very early, the age in the 17, 18 years old. So I started playing with the mainframe computer, doing the procedural kind of language like assembler, COBOL, Fortran, and many other languages of that kind. So since then, I never stopped. So I've been working for more than 40 plus years in the IT industry, digital transformation projects, expert system that we call it, so now AI, in the project management space, leading projects of all kinds, sizes, teams. I had the opportunity to work for global organizations, so working with teams from around the globe. In addition to the career, so I am passionate about teaching. So I am a faculty members of a couple of university in USA. So I teach software engineering, project management, and also the soft skills. So I do emotional intelligence, change management, and now I'm experimenting with growth mindset. So to develop leaders in the profession. So I do a lot of research in PMOs as well. So I'm
Thanks.
passionate about those topics.
Fantastic, Tony. Thank you for that introduction. And even at the high level there were several things that I will
Mhm.
dive into as we go. First of all, obviously, you don't look old enough to have been working for 40 years. So I just thought I'd drop that in. Interesting that you mentioned expert systems, being part of the AI family, and I'm sure that will come out. I think the other thing that I would say that if anybody does follow you on LinkedIn, and I would encourage anybody to follow you on LinkedIn, what you'll see about Tony is that he's a lifelong learner,
Oh, yeah.
so constantly building your knowledge, if you like, which I find absolutely fascinating and brilliant. So thank you for that introduction, and I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts about this. But so let's dive into AI in project management, and if we just start with that, well, what is AI in project management from your perspective? What's the use cases, maybe today and maybe even tomorrow as well, Tony?
Yeah, so in project management, so basically this morning, so I started my day teaching a PMP review course. So I was teaching them, today was about scope management and schedule management. So I did a class where basically so make them think about different use cases that they can apply to create a solid scope management plan for projects. So these people are from the government, um, government in Puerto Rico. So the impact, so they were impressed. None of them have used any kind of generative AI to help them in the particular task. So the opportunity that we have with AI as a co-pilot for us is incredible. So when I was in Singapore, I delivered a speech for the PMI Singapore. And it was a mix. I have AI in one hand, and also I have EQ in the other hand. So in the center, I drop heart. So to be a better version of yourself, so you need to realize in leadership skills, because we are humans and we can never lose that part. And the other hands for efficiency and to have high level thinking. So you're gonna use AI for that. So that will help you to be a better version of yourself. So you're gonna be a better project manager when you combine the both, the leadership aspect with EQ, emotional intelligence, and the intelligence, the artificial intelligence, in the other hand, to be more efficient in your decision making, generating more ideas, and using AI as I said, co-pilot to increase your level of thinking, so you get better ideas and more efficiency. So the opportunity that we have with AI in project management, and not only in project management, but in any career, is impressive if you
Yeah.
use it well. So
Yeah, I think, when you started talking about the scope management and the lecturing this morning, I was just thinking, the ability to do the first pass of scope for a project is it's just tremendous, in terms of,
right.
and notice I say the first pass. Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's the final version
Exactly.
at this stage. Maybe sometime in the
Right.
future. But if you know sufficient variables of what the problem is that you're trying to define, I
Mhm.
think that in particular Gen AI can really, really help us in the project profession accelerate that scope management. So I just wanted to say that first of all, and just as the sort of example, but if I just come back to what you were saying there, I found it fascinating that you were basically putting, a Venn diagram together of AI, EI, so emotional intelligence, and the heart in the middle. And for me, that actually is very forward thinking. And we're now starting to see various commentators mentioning this relationship between AI and the human being almost the next step on. And we still get some of this challenge about garbage in, garbage out, and hallucinations, and security challenges. But the fact that the leaders, and such as yourself, Tony, are now starting to think about the next step on, I think is fascinating. Is there a particular use case that you're thinking about around AI and emotional intelligence?
Yeah, everything is about decision making. And so most of the use cases that you have out there are more for help the project manager in the tasks, the risk management, performance management. So to predict the success of your projects. That's all the use cases. So other use cases that I haven't seen many of those is in the pre-projects. So what happened about the business case? So if we can predict, I have this business case, what are the chances that I'm going to realize the benefits of the investment
Mm,
just with information with the business case?
mm.
So, and that goes a little bit into the portfolio management and all the prioritization, categorizations of project. But I said way before, from the idea arrives. So can I have some use cases that I can put an idea? So right there, so that idea won't fly.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
yeah,
prediction is that you're gonna find X, Y, and Z, and so it's not worth it to invest in something like that. So that you have factual data
yeah,
about that predictions that you will say, yes, definitely, I won't go there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think I haven't seen a lot of use cases in that area of the pre-projects. Don't go
yeah,
into the project because the project has the commitment to invest the money is already there.
yeah.
So that's
I,
an opportunity for AI to help us
Yeah,
in that
I
area.
have to give a quick shout out. Actually, as part of our solutions, that's part of what we actually do. We do predict at that pre-approval stage as well, because we base on machine learning. It's about
Mhm.
pattern recognition,
Exactly.
or if I say it a slightly different way, it's about comparing similar proposed projects with similar completed projects so that you
Right.
can then determine the most likely outcome. The bit that it interests me is beyond that. I can give somebody the greatest, most accurate prediction in the world, but that's not to say that, you as a sponsor, you as an approver accepts that recommendation
Okay.
and runs with that proposal, or doesn't want to hear that that project budget is too low, or the time is too short, and
Mhm.
has the wherewithal to say no, the business case needs updating. Now, for me, when we're talking about the emotional intelligence there, about how to present that message to not just the one stakeholder, but many stakeholders, and how to move that, data mindset forward. Now, for me, that would be fantastically exciting.
Right.
Do you think that's going to be possible via AI?
Yeah, definitely. So the I would say the using the AI to come up with fast words and predictions about different things. In the case of the business case, but the other side is still the consumers are humans. So how are you going to present the results of
Yeah,
those predictions so the decision makings accept that? So it's a lot of communication, it's a lot of empathy, and also
mm,
understanding the human thinking.
mm,
So everything is related to your emotions. So how you create positive emotions about something that I'm presenting to you, so you will like it, and you
yeah,
say, yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
yeah,
So that requires all the skills that we have. So we have around 37 skills just to develop emotional intelligence, empathy,
yeah,
active listening. Just to read the other people, there's a lot of research and writing around how to analyze people.
yeah.
So,
Well,
uh,
what I was thinking was looping that back into what we were talking about earlier, Tony, where if you've got the problem statement, and let's say project at risk pre-approval stage,
mhm,
and if you've got your large language model appropriately trained to probably a mix of two things. One, some standards. As
mhm,
you mentioned the number of emotional intelligence areas. I'm sure that's coming from a standard in some form, or accreditation. If you
mhm.
can mix that, best in breed theory with, well, how did people react on a project similar to this previously? Now, that probably is getting harder
Yeah,
still, because we never recorded that type of information. But you could use Gen AI to produce almost the stakeholder
right.
management plan, and then again, maybe leaping further forward, you could use Gen AI to actually create that plan and create the alerts in email, create the alerts on the action plan, react to the communication as well. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that definitely. So, one of the book that I'm reading, this book is about emotional intelligence, but it says six in one. So it's not just emotional intelligence, but it talks about how to analyze people, improve your social skills, and also dark psychology. So there's a lot of things about humanity. But going back to what you're saying, so we have data about what you're saying. So we have personality tests in organization. There are organizations that have, and there's a lot of research conducted since 1990 because emotional intelligence was popularized by Harvard with Daniel Goleman. Popularized the concepts of emotional intelligence. There's a lot of facts out there. So if you can have access to that facts, so let's say in a corporate world, so most of the company they have personality tests that they conduct to the employees. So the data about the behavior and so that's a good thing because I know if the decision gonna be positive decision or gonna be a negative decision based on the personality of the decision makers.
Yeah, I honestly hadn't thought about the personality tests. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not close enough. I presume even senior managers still have to go and do those personality. Certainly, I know I used to contribute to what they were called 360s. So I know at that level, but absolutely, that's a sort of data source that you could potentially tap into. So that blending, I think that's a fantastic idea. There's probably a product idea there, Tony, for somebody who's listening, or maybe somebody's already thinking about that,
Yeah, I haven't seen anything connecting or having use cases to connect the people with the factual things of project management. So because you say decisions are made by humans. So we know humans because the data are out there. So and the information that you are credible information is based on research that this type of personality they made that kind of decision, they behave in this particular way. So if we use AI to analyze those patterns and combine with the factual data, so project management, so we're gonna have better quality of decision making.
I definitely think it's worth it. I haven't seen anything in terms of exactly what we've been talking about, but I know my dear friend Dr. Josh Ramirez is pushing on neuroscience. So the science of projects. And I'm sure if he was in this conversation, he'd be talking about there are certain traits of how to improve project success. Humans are always biased, always over optimistic, and not always, sorry, generally are over optimistic. Exactly. So I can imagine blending, his work maybe with our work and maybe with what you're referring to. Wouldn't that be powerful? And then the actual creation of those stakeholder plans, those change plans as well. I think it's coming, Tony. I think it might be coming this year to a place as well. So maybe we'll have some more conversations about that. But this all sounds positive in terms of what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
So obviously I'm biased myself. I'm an advocate for AI in project management and the potential that it may bring.
Exactly.
What about yourself? Is there something that concerns you about AI in project management?
No, I say like any other technology. So in 40 years, a lot of things happen. So I have seen a lot of trends, new technologies, and everything is threatening the professionals in that area or people in general. For example, when I started in IT, so everybody was saying, so fourth generation language, so that was a threat. So we don't gonna need developers anymore because
Mm,
the fourth generation language, the business, they will be equipped to develop their own application, so they won't need software developers.
mm, mm, mm,
So
mm,
that didn't fly. Still, they
mm,
needed software developer to know how to develop SQL
mm,
programs and fourth generation languages. So then the fifth generation language was about taking just the requirements and putting into the system. So the
mm,
case tool, the
mm,
computer software engineering tools,
mm, mm,
you
mm,
use all the requirement automatically the system generate the codes. So you
mm,
see
mm, mm, mm,
the computer generating also. You say,
mm,
I
mm,
want this software developing code, for example,
mm,
and you
mm,
see the system generating all the code there.
mm, mm,
So
mm,
that didn't fly. We still need it
mm,
because
mm,
the
mm,
machine wasn't perfect. So you need to
mm,
review the code. You need
mm.
to add different things. So for me, AI is another sophisticated tool. It's an evolution of everything that we have seen through the
Mm.
year. And so we need to leverage on that technology. That's
It's,
when you you need to use AI as a co-pilot to be a better version of yourself, using
yeah.
that in your advantage.
There's a couple of things you say there because, first of all, I was thinking about low code, which for me, is slightly scary because I just think that users are going to create a load of stuff which is uncontrolled, then they're going to leave the organization, and poor IT department will have to try and unpick this. And I sort of see it similar to macros in Excel that nobody else knows apart from the person that wrote it, the more complex they get. So I'm slightly nervous about giving so much power to individuals that it becomes a spider's web that can't really be controlled. And I think getting that balance between control and autonomy
Mhm.
is going to be an interesting subject as we go forward. Um, I, so that was my first point, and please feel free to come back on that in 1 second. My second point was, I do wonder whether this generation that is we're going into now, or revolution that we're going into now about AI may be slightly different. I mean, we're already seeing certain organizations who are claiming to, displace programmers with AI programmers, and I'm sure there's a lot of noise there, but at the same time, no smoke without fire, as it were. I'm sure some of it's happening. So if you don't mind, you can see my sort of thoughts there on low code, and actually, is it slightly different this time? What's your thoughts on that, Tony?
Yeah, so I would say in order to develop using AI tools, you still need to be a developer. So
Mm,
now you need to add another skill is to be a good, it's like I would coming back to the past. So I started as a software developer and then I would transition to be a programming analyst.
mm,
So
mm,
that means that I had the capacity to talk to you as a business owner
mm,
or process
mm, mm,
owner
mm, mm,
and
mm,
gather the requirements and convert your requirements and B was requirement into something concrete that into an application that you can use to automate the particular activities. So the same for in AI. So I need to be a developer in order to use AI to develop code. So in addition to be a developer that you understanding something, so like I give you, let's say, codes in Python. So if you don't know Python, so you won't understand anything. At the end of the day, it's an algorithm. So I'm gonna use prompt engineering to create significant and valuable outcome in the way of codes. So that's so I need. So it's like we need to improve our skills. So replacement gonna be with those people that they don't have the skills. I only I'm only a coder in Python, but I don't know anything about prompting. So that's the transition that I see is to have more focus on a specialization around these things. Is like Elon Musk, he mentioned something. So the people that are gonna have jobs are prompt engineers, and you're gonna make 300,000 a year. So that's what you need to study. Forget about the other things.
It's interesting also. I mean, my other concern about this is not just those 2 points that I made, but my other concern is trying to create people, and by people, I actually think I mean project managers that are suddenly wizards in all of this different plethora of products. And not already we see there's multiple large language models. Yes, ChatGPT is probably the leading one, but there's several others, and obviously other organizations pushing. But actually, then you start thinking about the use cases around project controls, project management, and you can use this tool to do that, this tool to do that. And suddenly you're no longer a project manager who's trying to drive the project forward. You've suddenly got to be an expert, not just in Microsoft Office, but these other 5 or 10 applications. And that really makes me nervous as well, to create superheroes at this stage of the evolution is just not the right thing to do, in my opinion. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if you already took the latest course that PMI released, the application on AI.
I must admit that's the one that's really sparking my point there. I know there's one that's just come out. I'm very intrigued to do that about construction, but the previous one that's really where I'm coming from. Tony. That sort of scared me a bit,
So that's when so that's what I suggest to project manager. You don't need to become because in order to do all those use cases that they have integrating tools, so you're becoming that's another profession. That's not project management.
Yeah.
So that's an system integrator. So you can call it someone good integrating system, developing interfaces. So that's the skill that you need to use all those tools. So I have been doing that for all my life because as a system developer, integrating system is part of the job. So what you need to do as a project manager, so that's a resource. That's gonna be one of your stakeholders in your project team. So you need to have someone, a system integrator, or if you wanna call it a prompt engineer or the data scientist in your team for your project. But what you need to have is the business acumen. So the vision of the business, how you're going to develop the product to support the business strategic objectives. And that's the way the EQ come into place. So you develop leadership, but you don't need to learn. I'm learning a lot of things like machine learning. I'm taking a specialization in machine learning. But that's about math. It's like I'm going back
totally. You and I are drinking from the same cup on that, Tony. And I think it's very interesting your point that you say clearly that's not a project manager. And for
Yeah.
me, I absolutely, you articulated it far better than I have, you know, and why are we trying to make those people as project managers? I don't get it. Anyway,
Exactly.
I'm very glad to hear that we're on the same page. Look, we've been talking for ages now, and I think we could talk about any one of those subjects at greater depth. And hey, we may do in due course. But Tony, trying to wrap up your views around AI in project management. If there was a takeaway or a summary of what your thoughts are, what would it be?
Well, so my takeaway, these tools are here to stay. And we can ignore that those tools are there to help you to be more efficient, to add more value to your organization, and you need to embrace that. So we were discussing, doesn't mean that you need to become an expert in machine learning or in deep learning, because those are other disciplines. So what you need to understand is that in your setting your team, so you're gonna have different players because it's a different game.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
need to think about when you are establishing the team for a particular project, there are other players that you never had before, like a
yeah,
prompt engineer, so data
yeah,
scientist in my team.
yeah,
So, but those are the players. So
yeah,
maybe you don't need 100 software developer in Java for your projects. So maybe you need a couple, and now you have a prompt engineer, maybe two prompt engineers and two data scientists.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that's the scenario that is changing. It's basically about roles and responsibility and new players that are coming to the game of AI.
Yeah, I love all of that. And sometimes I think those roles, the SI role, sits at the portfolio or the enterprise level rather than the individual project level as well. It should be a service, a set of controls that's determined by the organization. But Tony, listen, buddy, that was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed that conversation. So thank you so much for sparing the time to speak with me today. And we'll get that book on in the links as well. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you to you for inviting me, and thank you everyone to listening. So any questions that so I'm in social media, so you can ask me.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony.
Thank